In 2077, news broadcasts on radio and television in the US declare that the president is gone and that nuclear weapons may be launched shortly. On the other hand, the host of a party urges guests to enjoy themselves and shuts off all electronics. Cooper performs his cowboy performance for the kids in the garden. Following the conclusion of the concert, Cooper witnesses in terror as a bomb explodes in the city, ending the world. Everyone flees in fear as soon as the shockwave strikes the house and smashes the windows. While some guests drive off, the hosts hide in their bunker and punch anyone who tries to sneak up on them. More explosions can be seen in the distance as Cooper and his daughter flee on their horse. 219 years later, a select segment of humanity resides in subterranean bunkers called vaults due to the increasing danger of the surface. Lucy, who resides in Vault 33, is a talented pipefitter who uses her knowledge of science, teaching, fencing, gymnastics, and other skills to benefit the community. She requests permission from the council one day to take part in the triennial trade with Vault 32, which should enable her to meet a husband. The council grants her request. In addition to helping Lucy look lovely for the event, Lucy's family plans a small celebration for her. The bashful and awkward Monty, her future husband, is introduced to her at the entrance of Vault 32 after they have escorted her there. Following an official marriage ceremony, Monty becomes a member of Vault 33, and the families celebrate with a party. Monty and Lucy head to their room and get right to work while everyone is preoccupied. When Norman, Lucy's brother, visits Vault 32 in the meantime, he is startled to see a lifeless wheat field. When he walks into the closest residence, he finds it to be in disarray, as though someone had broken in. He finds out that Overseer, the head of the vault, has been killed when he goes to a room at the back. Lucy hears shouting and strange noises in the distance all of a sudden. She hears gunfire soon after as well, so she reaches for her Pip-Boy computer brace and looks at Monty. As it turns out, he is from the surface, which means that he entered the vaults as a raider together with his family. They pretended to be locals in order to enter 33 after raiding 32. After attacking Lucy, they get into a battle, during which Monty throws Lucy against the oven and takes out a knife. Lucy instantly regains consciousness and tries to take the knife from him, but Monty overwhelms her and stabs her. Lucy takes advantage of Monty's distraction caused by the alarm going off at that precise moment to unconscious him with a blender. After receiving an injection, Lucy leaves her chamber to find that this vault is also being looted and that many of her loved ones have died. She goes outdoors with her weapons and kills a raider along the road. As the villagers combat the raiders, the celebration has turned into a battlefield where more and more lives are lost on both sides every second. Even one robber is crushed as he is apprehended at the entryway. Lucy takes her time moving about and taking out raiders when she gets the chance. Norman is on the verge of death as well, but Lucy stops the assailant in her tracks and forces Norman to flee. Monty finds her at that same moment and tries to kill her, but Hank, Lucy's father, knocks him down from behind, hits him some more, and drowns him in a barrel of pickles. Upon reaching the passage connecting the vaults, Hank and Lucy discover that a number of hostages have been captured by the raiders. Hank is forced to pick between Lucy and the hostages by Raider Commander Moldaver, and he decides on Lucy. The invaders use tranquilizers to knock him out after he confines her in a cupboard. Before heading to the surface with Hank and the other raiders, Moldaver remarks to Lucy that she resembles her mother. They order the captives to flee before setting off the bomb as they are leaving. The dead are removed for compost, and the survivors start tidying up after that. After using a stapler on her stab wound, Lucy goes to the assembly and requests that a search party be sent out to locate her father. But because the surface is too risky, everyone says no. Observing his sister's persistence, Norman persuades gatekeeper Chet to secretly open the door for her. Chet wants to accompany Lucy, but she sedates him, bids Norman farewell, and then leaves. Since this is the first time she has seen the outside world, the bright sunshine, the abandoned city, the abundance of bodies, and the size of the ocean overwhelm her. Max is receiving training from the Brotherhood of Steel, a group that believes that humanity cannot be trusted with advanced technology, and works to protect it and control its use somewhere else on Earth. They buy technology in case there's another apocalyptic disaster. Max is frequently troubled by his fellow cadets, who enjoy giving him rough treatment. He gets slapped by the teacher in class as well when he doesn't respond to a question. The students see knights in T-60 power armor when a number of planes descend on the training ground one afternoon, and it gives them optimism that they will one day be able to wear armor like that. After the knights had calmed down for a little while, Max and his best friend Dane sneak around to have a close-up look at the armors. Max recalls the day he was inspired to join the Brotherhood by a knight when he was younger. Max finds out later that a number of cadets have been selected to become squires and accompany the knights into the wilderness. Max is upset that he would lose his only friend because Dane is a part of this. When they put on their boots the following morning, Dane yells because they have razor blades inside of them, ruining their plans to go. The leaders quickly take Max away for questioning because they believe he is the one who did it. Max professes his innocence and his loyalty to the Brotherhood, saying he would stop at nothing to save lives. He is shocked to learn that his remarks earn him Dane's squire title. After that, Max goes to an initiation ritual. Max is touched by a knight who warms up the metal hand and leaves a scar on his back, signifying the Brotherhood. After that, he attends a mission briefing where they are tasked with tracking down a man on the run from the Enclave, a paramilitary group thought to be the direct offshoot of the American government. The group discovers that the man has stolen an extremely dangerous thing that needs to be recovered in order to avert a tragedy, and they are shown a picture of him and his dog companion. Excited to get started, Max boards an aircraft with a knight assigned to him. In another scene, a gang of bounty seekers approaches a stronghold and murders the sentry. They arrive at the cemetery in pursuit of a renowned bounty hunter who has been imprisoned for a number of years. This hunter is reportedly kept alive in a burial, and the leader of the citadel digs him up once a year, chops off a few bits, and reburies him. They discover a burial with 2 4-bags attached and tubes sticking out of the ground as they search the area. The bounty hunters discover that this individual is a ghoul, a term for humans who have undergone mutations. In order to determine whether or not the ghoul is insane, the crew next excavates the coffin and places the chicken in front of it. Cooper is revealed as the ghoul that appears when they open the casket. He picks up the chicken in jest, and the group suggests they collaborate to earn a big reward, the same individual the Brotherhood is pursuing. Given that Cooper used to live in California, they are aware that the man is traveling there in search of Moldaver. But when his past is brought up, Cooper becomes enraged and launches an assault, killing 2 of the hunters and wounded the third, whom he then tosses into his old grave before fleeing. Then, a flashback reveals that Dr. Wilzig assists with the dog breeding program in the Enclave. He fabricates a record in order to save the life of an underweight puppy since he disapproves of the Enclave's policy of burning newborn puppies that weigh less than 10 ounces. With the codename CX404, Wilzig raises this dog over the years into a devoted companion who keeps him company while he conducts covert experiments. He makes a tiny, throbbing blue bead and inserts it into his neck. Wilzig fights with the coworker to stop him after he finds him red-handed one day and threatens to report him. Launching herself into the fray, CX404 kills the man in order to save her master. Following their escape from the facility while dodging gunfire from a turret, Wilzig and CX404 are now wanted felons that the Brotherhood is pursuing. Returning to Lucy, she is horrified to find the remains of a family that apparently believed using poison to terminate their own life was preferable to surviving the end of the world as she meanders among the ruins. She is sleeping by a campfire that night when CX404's snarling startles her. As the dog goes for a mutant roach that is hidden in the area, Lucy turns to see Wilzig staring at her. He goes on to describe how radroaches developed from common cockroaches to become larger and more predatory. Wilzig tells Lucy that the wastelands are too hazardous and that she should return home, but Lucy won't go without her father. Let down, Wilzig declares that her objectives will shift once the situation makes her a different animal, and she takes CX404 with her. Wilzig and CX404 pause in the morning by some abandoned chemical waste barrels to take a nap. When CX404 emerges from a cave with a human hand in her mouth, Wilzig becomes aware that a hazardous creature is in the area. Max tries to connect with Knight Titus in the interim, but he is ignored. Titus eventually grows bored and, disregarding their designated region, requests that the pilot dump them early. After Titus snatches Max, they leap from the plane and begin to explore the surrounding area. When they eventually get at the cave location, they discover proof that Wilzig was present. They make the decision to enter the cave, and while they explore, they come under attack by Yaogwai, a mutant bear. When Titus's weapon is instantly destroyed, he tries punching a few times, but they are ineffective, so he flees in terror. He is swiftly knocked down by the Yaogwai before it can begin to shake the armor. When Titus cries out for assistance, Max emerges and takes a shot to the Yaogwai's head. Next, Max takes off his helmet and searches his luggage for medication. Titus insults Max and holds him responsible for the events, going into detail about what they do to squires who don't perform up to par. Shocked by the knight's timidity, Max says Titum doesn't deserve to be a knight, and chooses not to give him the medication. Max tests the armor's strength after Titus dies, bringing down some ruins in the process. He pulls the chicken collector back by his hair and lets the salesperson go after noticing that he is abusing a salesman nearby. But the chicken collector admits that he was hitting the dealer because the seller had been mistreating his chicks. Max finds out his suit has jets in the arms when he raises his hands in embarrassment. Lucy arrives at the Philly marketplace after a long day of walking, but when she inquires about her dad, no one can respond. She walks into a store after seeing some Vault-Tec there and asks the clerk where she got it, but the clerk gets alarmed when Lucy brings up Moldaver and throws her out. Lucy runs across Wilzig on her way out, and he recognizes her from Vault 33 and begins stating all he knows about it before requesting that she return home. Cooper appears before Lucy can inquire as to how he learned all of that, unconcerned about Philly's ban on ghouls. Additionally, the clerk emerges and says that Wilzig has been paid to be transported out of Philly. As a result, Cooper shoots Wilzig, causing him to lose a leg. The clerk says she'll pay 1,000 bottle caps to anyone can kill Cooper, and everyone scrambles to hide. The townspeople begin fire in the ensuing gunfight because they want to murder Cooper in order to get the bounty. Nevertheless, Cooper remains unaffected and dispatches his opponents with ease because he is a ghoul. Lucy returns to the store covertly after using the diversion to find Moldaver's name on the clerk's log. She also steals a gun that she discovers on the wall for herself. Cooper knocks down the clerk outside, but CX-404 jumps on him as he tries to apprehend Wilzig, so Cooper stabs her. Subsequently, Cooper is shot by Lucy using a tranquilizer, but it has no effect on him. Cooper tries to fire back, but Max appears and shoves her aside just in time. He asks Lucy to stand by him as he battles, telling her that Wilzig is significant. Max pursues Cooper, causing some damage in the town while he learns how to use the armor's weaponry, while Lucy and the clerk hurry to bring Wilzig into the shop. In the store, Wilzig receives a metal prosthetic after the shopkeeper uses a machine to chop off a portion of his leg. Lucy decides to accompany Wilzig in the hopes that it will lead her to her father when she is informed later that he needs to be brought to Moldaver. Cooper and Max continue to battle in the streets as the two make their getaway. Unfortunately, Cooper breaks a cord on the rear of Max's armor, causing him to float, because Max is still having problems controlling it. After Cooper slaps him with a rope, sending him flying, Max flies through the skies till crashing a few miles distant. Cooper then heals CX-404 and begins pursuing her while she searches for her owner. A few hours later, Wilzig asks Lucy to pause so he may relax, but then abruptly declares he is using poison to self-destruct. He instructs Lucy to take his head to Moldaver and alter the future before he passes away. Lucy had no choice but to swallow her disgust and start chopping. When Cooper and CX-404 finally get at this location, Wilzig's lifeless body is all that remains. He takes some medication, and then he and the dog begin to go along the beach, tracking Lucy's footprints. Lucy, meanwhile, keeps moving forward while carrying the head. She stops to examine it more closely when she gets to camp, and when she touches Wilzig's neck, a spark keeps striking her fingertips. She inserts a tracker inside the nostril just in case. Max is working on the suit somewhere else when a radio communication from the base arrives. Max pretends to be Titus and declares that his squire has died, but when the leaders assure him that another one will be sent, he becomes frightened and destroys the radio. He then goes back to the market to purchase the parts he requires, but he is forced to sell some teeth because he is short on cash. Max discovers that there are raiders all around the armor when he gets back to it. He makes an effort to repel them, but they are too numerous and swiftly overwhelm him, knocking him to the ground. Max doesn't give up and gets some tools to try again, this time taking out two of the guys. He is pushed into the armor by the other raiders during their conflict, and as a result, one of the enemies flees after he unintentionally breaks their head. A Brotherhood plane passes by at the precise moment to drop Thaddeus, the new squire. Max is forced to don the armor and assume the persona of Titus. When Thaddeus accepts his belief, the two of them depart. As Thaddeus was one of the persons that used to annoy Max, Max can now get revenge on him by making him perform various menial duties, such as climbing trees to gather apples. They eventually come across Wilzig's body as well and start going in Lucy's direction. As they stroll, Thaddeus talks about how he used to be the major target of his classmates' attention, and how he felt terrible about it. When Max arrived as the newest arrival, Thaddeus turned the focus back on him. The council chooses a penalty in Vault 33. Norman is assigned very humiliating responsibilities, such as taking food to the invaders who are imprisoned, and Chet is no longer the gatekeeper. Subsequently, the council declares that they would turn the raiders into vault citizens through rehabilitation. Norman reveals that they are murderers who ought to be put to death, but the thought disgusts everyone. A technician then reports that they are running out of water to provide the residents, and are unable to keep up with the raiders. Returning to Lucy, she finds herself in a flooded city where she attempts to make friends with a deer. However, a monster emerges from the water, snatches the deer, and then hides once more. Lucy shoots the monster after it attacks and drags her away as she turns around. The creature releases her, but it takes its head with it as it runs away. As Lucy prepares to leap into the water and follow the tracker, Cooper appears and strikes her. Cooper ties Lucy up and tosses her into the ocean as bait after she tells him what occurred. The monster soon appears, and Lucy is forced to exit the sea by Cooper pulling her out. It seizes Lucy's leg and shoves Cooper away in an instant, but before Lucy can hit it with her bag, CX-404 bites it, frightening it away. Cooper, who is feeling defeated, makes the decision to go, and takes Lucy with him. The monster tries to assault Max and Thaddeus as soon as they arrive. Max fires, but his shots don't have much effect. The beast suddenly chases towards Thaddeus when he fires a distant shot at it. Max pulls from the other side while the monster tries to swallow Thaddeus, causing Thaddeus' feet to strike its neck so hard that it eventually passes out from vomiting. When Wilzig's head emerges, CX-404 shows up right away to see how it's doing. After a lengthy stroll, Lucy and Cooper encounter another ghoul writhing in agony because he has run out of medication in an abandoned clinic. Cooper puts a stop to his suffering by shooting him, and he then begins chopping off flesh to make jerky. Cooper simply coerces Lucy to assist even though she protests. The two then pause to get water from an unclean pool, at which point Cooper starts hacking up. Lucy takes advantage of the opportunity to flee, but she nearly falls into a massive chasm. Cooper can just pull her back with his rope because she freezes. Lucy bites Cooper's hand out of desperation and inadvertently removes a finger. Cooper responds by taking off one of Lucy's. After arriving at the Super-Duper Mart, Cooper wishes to trade Lucy for the medication that keeps him sane. He sends her inside the building and instantly collapses. A robot discovers Lucy inside and provides her a prosthetic finger before seducing her and announcing that it will remove her organs. Lucy soon finds herself awakened on a stretcher, and as the robot whisks her off, she learns that two bandits are keeping cages full of mutated women. When the robot in the operating room pulls out a saw, Lucy kicks it and leaps off the stretcher. She then takes a defibrillator and uses it to electrocute the robot till it malfunctions. After discovering a weapon, Lucy uses the robot to intimidate the bandits while claiming to have poisoned its syringes. With the exception of one who has completely transformed into a ghoul, all the ladies flee when they agree to let them go and open the cages. To Lucy's astonishment, cages that she was unaware of also open, letting forth a horde of insane ghouls that assault the bandits until they have all killed one another. Lucy is forced to kill the last woman since she pursues Lucy as well. Lucy gives Cooper some medication and tells him she'll never be like him as she leaves. Cooper visits the building after her departure and discovers a lot more medication. He also discovers a film he produced while he was an actor, so he settles down to watch it. When Norman delivers meals to the inmates in Vault 33, they inform him that the individuals in charge are not innocent and have a troubled past. Norman is curious and tries to examine Vault 32's records, but he is turned away. After that, he picks Chet up, and the two of them return to Vault 32 to conduct more research. When they examine one of the body's Pip-Boys, they discover that the last trace of life was discovered 2 years ago, which is consistent with the condition of the plants outdoors. This indicates that these folks weren't slaughtered by the raiders. Rather, the area was already this way. Based on the arrangement of the bodies, it appears that they murdered one another. The words, "We know the truth," are written in blood on one of the walls. As they proceed farther inside, they discover the deceased overseer bound to a chair with the words, "Death to management," written on the wall. Norman discovers through looking through the log that the intruders used his mother's Pip-Boy to get in. Max and Thaddeus return and take a break in an abandoned train station. Max chooses to expose his identity, and names Thaddeus as his former squire. Max tries to assassinate Thaddeus because he won't help him lie because he's afraid of the Brotherhood. But Thaddeus moves quickly, stealing the fusion core to disable the armor, trapping Max inside. Then, carrying CX-404 and Wilzig's head, Thaddeus departs. When a swarm of rat roaches jump on the armor the following morning, Lucy appears and quickly shoots them all. She then opens Max's faceplate but is hesitant to assist him because she is unsure of who she may still trust. When she throws up out of the blue, Max introduces himself as Titus and begs her to assist him so he can give her some medicine because if she doesn't, they will both perish. Just before she faints, Lucy takes off the armor. Thanks to Max's medication, Lucy wakes up feeling well. Max notes that many people mistakenly believe that there are monsters in the vaults rather than real people. Lucy then makes a deal. In return for him using his knightly weaponry to assist her in saving her father, she will use her tracker to bring him to justice. Max accepts, and the two of them head off. They pass a few travelers on their way, and Lucy persuades Max to handle the situation amicably. Everyone puts up their hands and begins to move. When the travelers notice Lucy's Pip-Boy, they attempt to attack. Max responds by shooting both of them, cutting his arm in the process. Then he tells Lucy that those travelers were fiends, people-eating creatures. The two continue traveling and arrive to Shady Sands, where a sign indicates that 34,000 people lived there before the war. Lucy is shocked to learn that there are considerably more people on the surface than she anticipated, despite the vault's stated purpose of eventually repopulating the planet. She understands that everything about her has been a lie. To ease her fears, Max shows her the wrecked city and a massive gap, demonstrating to her that the post-war efforts were ineffective. He actually used to reside here and made it by hiding in a refrigerator. Lucy notices that Max is bleeding heavily at that point, so they head to some abandoned labs to find a first aid kit. Max tries to follow her as she dashes inside, but the doors slam behind him and a gas knocks him out. They discover they are in a vault when they awaken. As Norman and Chet continue their investigation at Vault 32, they learn that the locals were attempting to access Vault 31. Later, Betty wins by a wide margin when the residents of Vault 33 cast their votes for a new overseer. Norman looks through their election records and finds that, like Betty, every one of their selected overseers originated from Vault 31. This also occurs in Vault 32. The following day, Betty says she's spoken with the residents of 31, and they've decided to send workers to 32 to rebuild. When Norman and the others from 33 investigate Vault 32, they are shocked to find that there are no dead or bloodstains whatsoever. Norman, who is beginning to suspect something, asks Betty what happened to his mother's Pip-Boy, and she tells him that it was buried with her. Then, a flashback reveals that Cooper starred as the face of Vault Tech's advertisement back when he was an actor. He records a tour of Vault 4, claiming that it will provide defense against communists. There are 80 scientists working on this project, and they will all be here for the duration of the 5-year study. At a party hosted by Cooper's wife Barb after work, he hears with some disappointment from his actor pals that Hollywood is overdue to the impending conflict, and hence their future lies in promoting things. Cooper begins to worry about his family's future because Barb already has a Pip-Boy and works for the vaults. Cooper believes they might not have much freedom at the vaults because of their seeming very restrictive laws, such as their refusal to let dogs. Barb and I often argue over this. Cooper is found and taken into custody by 3 sheriffs in the present. They even return his finger, which Cooper begins sewing back on, and take him to visit their boss. The commander orders his soldiers to lay down their guns since he used to know Cooper. He kills the 3 sheriffs as soon as he finishes using his finger, and he then confronts the boss about why he has a wanted poster of Moldaver up on his wall. When Cooper sees her, a flashback shows that he once attended a covert gathering for Hollywood Forever. He met Moldaver there, who identified herself as Cooper's biggest admirer. Returning to Lucy and Max, the vault physicians tend to their wounds and advise them to hold off until they are certain they are radiation-free. Lucy takes the opportunity to ask Max if he wants to do something wrong, but he replies that he can't since he's a knight and acknowledges that he doesn't have the necessary expertise. Lucy honors his decision, even though an exterior sign indicates they are in a room designated for test subjects. Shortly after, Max likens vaults to a cult, and they are permitted to eat lunch in the mess hall. They meet Overseer Ben, who affirms that this is Vault 4 and has just one central eye. He advises them to refrain from entering Level 12 and informs them of the rules. Lucy notices that everyone in the area is a hybrid human after Ben goes. Lucy, inquisitive, visits Ben at his office and discovers that Vault 4 accepts refugees from the surface, which is highly unusual. Ben throws her out after she inquires about Level 12. Max, who was also saved, goes to see how his armor is doing in the interim. He makes the decision to enter the power room covertly in order to take a fusion core and repair the armor, but Birdie discovers him. After giving him Pip-Boy, she transfers him to Unit 428, where he is given a flat of his own. For the first time, Max is able to appreciate simple things like clean water, decent food, music, and television. Lucy wanders around and comes across a Shady Sands model in a classroom. She notices a chronology painted on a chalkboard and learns that the new Californian Republic has taken control of the vault. She finds evidence of this by locating a flag. Following that, Birdie calls a meeting of all the inhabitants to execute the Surface Dweller ritual. They began worshipping the Flame Mother, chanting, and covering themselves in the ashes of the dead as they take off their clothes and Pip-Boys. Along with passing around a painting of Moldaver's face, who seems to be this Flame Mother, they also consume blood. Disturbed, Lucy searches for Max, who is enjoying himself immensely and is eager to get dirty right away. After Lucy is unable to persuade him to see reason, she dashes to level 12 via the lift in order to obtain evidence. She doesn't spot the creature at the window as she moves about. She eventually comes across a lab that contains human parts that demonstrate human experimentation. Additionally, there is a video that shows a lady giving birth to a large number of animals that devour her. Lucy is constantly searching and discovers a large number of pregnant ladies in capsules. Nevertheless, she is forced to hide when a scientist arrives for her routine checkup. She throws a bottle in the scientist's face after he raises the alarm when she tries to move. Lucy fights Birdie and her guards when they charge in, but she is only able to take down a handful of them before being overcome and taken prisoner. Two intrepid beachcombers search for equipment in the sand using metal detectors. They are forced to answer Cooper's queries when they find him in their kitchen when they get home. It comes out that one of the sons departed to join Moldaver's crew and never returned, but Moldaver's assurances that he would fix the world also attracted his sibling. Cooper coerces the child into telling him that Moldaver is up at the observatory by threatening him. The boy then tries to assault Cooper in an attempt to protect his convictions, but Cooper shoots the boy first, killing him. A flashback reveals that Cooper was not fond of Moldaver's meeting address, which discussed the demise of the American dream and suggested that Vault-Tec was tainted. She exposes that she knows Barb by berating Cooper for working for them and forcing him to have a private conversation. Moldaver was on the brink of some incredible discoveries that would benefit humanity, but everything was taken from her by Vault-Tec. She tells Cooper that resource wars have engulfed America for more than 10 years and that Vault-Tec has only acquired the means to put an end to them. She also reminds Cooper that war is a business. Cooper is unsure of whom to trust after Moldaver gives him a microphone so they may spy on Barb. Cooper bugs Barb's Pip-Boy when he gets home, but he soon feels bad about it and throws his own bug in the trash. But later that night, after watching another Vault-Tec advertisement, he makes up his mind that he needs the truth and dashes to get the bug out of the garbage. Lucy is handcuffed to a table in Vault 4 and forced to view a tape by Ben and Birdie. A monster killed all the scientists at the lab many years ago when it broke into the vault. Lucy is perplexed until Ben and Birdie clarify that in an effort to attempt and create humans that could endure high radiation, scientists were trying to hybridize humans with organisms that were resistant to radioactivity back then. But these tests went terribly wrong, and the scientists were killed by the animals. The people who currently occupy Vault 4 are only the survivors of all those horrific experiments. The monster on the recording was once human. Lucy expresses regret for any confusion caused and responds that there isn't an experiment in Vault 33 when questioned about it. Her statements result in her being detained right away. Max eventually makes the decision to stop being a couch potato, as he watches Lucy go by and runs to steal a power core as the guards take her away. In this society, being executed means being cast to the surface, where survival is thought to be impossible, and Lucy is tied up in front of a crowd at the same time. Everyone flees in fear as Max storms into the room wearing his armor at that precise moment, just as the lights go out. Before things get out of control, Lucy stops Max from running the furniture, and the two of them head for the surface. Lucy coerces Max to remove the armor once they are outdoors as they need to return the power core to the vault in order for them to survive. Max then reveals his true identity to Titus and admits what he done to him. But Lucy is aware of how hazardous the Wasteland is, and she appreciates what he did to survive, so they decide to continue their joint search for the head. In the meantime, Thaddeus makes a halt at a petrol station to examine the monster's wound on his foot. When CX-404 persists in attempting to access the head, Thaddeus locks her in a cola box before departing. The man Max helped the other day finds him as he walks across the beach. The man, posing as a doctor, leads Thaddeus to an abandoned clinic where he provides him some medication in return for the fusion core. After drinking it, Thaddeus is thrilled to see his foot start to recover right away. Cooper finds CX-404 whining at the petrol station, so he lets her go and pursues her to locate the head. Returning to Thaddeus, he locates a radio tower and makes a ride request call to the base. He fires while he waits to see Lucy and Max approaching, but he wastes all of his shots and never even reaches his targets. He unintentionally sets off a trap as he takes a step back, piercing his neck with an arrow, yet he escapes death. When he takes out the arrow and the wound heals, it indicates that the medication the doctor gave him turned him into a ghoul. When the Brotherhood aircraft arrive, Max offers to let Thaddeus escape in return for Wilzig's head because he fears being killed. Then, pretending to be Wilzig, he takes a random head from the ground and smashes its face. Before kissing Lucy, he gives her the actual one and instructs her to go locate her father. The reason behind the unexpected death of all the raiders in Vault 33 was the presence of rat poison in their food. Although Betty was the one who did this, the hospital attendant is arrested for it. As soon as she distributes the repopulation assignments, Chet finds out that Norman will remain in 33 and he will be moving to 32 with his girlfriend and her child. A man tries to object to Betty's large ceremony to welcome the new residents to flat number 32, but the presence of security forces him to comply. Norman breaks into Betty's office and uses the computer to connect to Vault 31 while everyone is preoccupied. He poses as Betty and claims that the mission was compromised. Hence, he is instructed to return to 31 right away. Soon, the entrance to Vault 31 unlocks, and Norman is startled by what he finds inside. Max is returned to the base, where he shows the boss the head. The chief recognizes the fake right away. The leader declares that Max is a traitor for killing Titus and wounded Dane, but before the Knights can put him to death, Max claims to know where the head is, and Dane acknowledges that they put the Razors in their own boots out of fear for the mission, so they plead for their friend's forgiveness. Now that Max gets the opportunity to clarify that Titus was a coward, the leader concedes that Titus deserved to perish and declares that Max will assist him in assuming power. Lucy brings the head to Moldaver's base in the meantime, where humans and ghouls live side by side. Moldaver is seated at a table with a ghoul for dinner, while Hank is confined in a cage. Lucy hands her the head, and Moldaver takes the small sphere out of the neck right away. She wants Lucy to know the truth, that Hank wasn't born in the vault, before she lets him go. Norman learns that the supervisor of number 31 is really a brain on a small computer at the same moment. Norman calmly moves aside to avoid it when it tries to tranquilize him after spotting him and scanning him for Hank's DNA. Then, to his dismay, he unlocks a door to reveal Buds, test tube infants raised with the express purpose of ensuring that, with the correct care, humanity would survive. Cooper visits Barb at work in another flashback, but he has to wait since she has a meeting. Taking advantage of the opportunity to spy on her, he discovers that the business is plotting against the globe, believing that by bringing about a cataclysmic event, they may outlive everyone else and prevent going to war. When they begin to argue over what to do next, Barb suggests that since there are 100 vaults spread out across America, they may each utilize one as a scientific experiment to determine which notion for humanity's redemption is the best. Norman is given the same explanation by the brain in the present. Vaults 32 and 33 serve as the breeding pool, while Vault 31 is home to the executives who are all cryogenically frozen. They are selected genetically to mate with the buds in order to produce a class of supermanagers, those who will inherit Earth when it has been completely wiped off. All of this indicates that the government dropped the bombs on purpose in order to establish a true monopoly. It also reveals that Hank was formerly Barb's assistant. In the present, Moldaver again shares this tale with Lucy, adding that Hank had also lied to Rose, his wife. Rose, on the other hand, was astute and deduced from a few hints that certain civilizations from the vaults had resurfaced. Rose knew Hank was hiding something when he labeled her suggestion ridiculous, so she left the vault. After she left with Lucy and Norman, Hank went outside and set Shady Sands on fire after realizing his kids were gone. Then Hank returned to the vault with his children. As Lucy begins to perceive some childhood memories in a different light, Moldaver explains that Wilzig invented cold fusion, which translates to infinite energy. Moldaver explains that the ghoul at the table is Rose while Hank shouts and tries to win Lucy around to his way of thinking. When Lucy notices her mother's necklace, she affirms that it is true. Devastated, Lucy has Hank give Moldaver the code she requires in order to turn on a unique computer that is powered by the vault's operating system. Norman attempts to escape Vault 31 in the meantime, but the door is shut, trapping him within. He falls asleep in one of the pods because he has nowhere else to go in order to survive. Returning to Moldaver, she attempts to use Wilzig's cold fusion on the computer, but the Brotherhood shows up in their plane before she can complete the operation. A battle breaks out as both sides exchange gunfire, leaving a trail of death and devastation in their wake. As the knights use their suits to smash one skull after another, Max rushes around trying to protect Dane. Hank utilizes this carnage to show Lucy that battle never changes and that his people had good reason to desire the purging of humanity. But Lucy won't let him go, she sobs for her mother. The Brotherhood quickly gains entry thanks to the knights' armors as they continue to shoot anybody who stands in their way. They spy a shadow in the rear of the chamber, and it's Cooper. Cooper kills the knight with ease because he knows that the armor has a flaw in the chest plate. When a second knight tries to retaliate, the electricity grid is damaged and the lights go out. Cooper starts taking down the knights one by one since he knows how to maneuver in the dark. Max takes advantage of the opportunity to climb the stairs and locate Lucy while the knights are preoccupied trying to combat Cooper. After he swiftly breaks free Hank from his cage, Lucy informs him that Hank was the one who demolished Max's house. Hank dons a knight's armor and tries to seize Lucy as they converse. Max steps up to defend her, but Hank takes him out with a swift blow. Feeling hurt, Lucy reaches for a gun and aims it at Hank, but she is unable to shoot her own father. Cooper arrives at that precise moment, and gives Hank a cheap shot to get him to back off. Cooper asks Hank where his family is, but Hank takes off in the armor before Cooper can respond. Later, Cooper notices that additional Brotherhood planes are approaching, so he begs Lucy to go with him to find Hank so they can complete exposing the plot. After taking a gun to end Rose's suffering, Lucy walks off with Cooper. A short while later, Max awakens to witness Moldaver sprinting to the computer to turn on the cold fusion, which cuts off all of the electricity to a neighboring city. She then tragically bleeds to death. Max is pronounced a hero at that point because Dane and other soldiers believe he killed Moldaver, but he isn't happy about it now that he knows the reality. Hank travels to New Vegas, while Lucy and Cooper arrive in Hollywood, which has also turned into a wasteland.